welcome to a couple of expats. I am Gabriella and this is John, and we are a couple of expats from the US living in the Netherlands, and we are a couple. So we are now on episode 5, and we have some really fun, exciting topics that I think you guys are going to enjoy. I think this might be our top rated episode so far. But before we jump into everything, let's just do a quick check-in, because last week we celebrated King's Day, which is a big celebration here where the whole city the whole country is shut down in honor of the King's birthday. So why don't you tell us how your King's Day was, John?
It was very good, very festive, very orange. Yeah, it was good. It was nice. It was supposed to be a pretty crummy day, and it actually ended up being pretty sunny and nice. So got pretty lucky on that one, I think. But yeah, it was good. Festive, very festive. Good DJs. Didn't get on a boat, which I don't know if I really would have wanted to get on a boat anyways, because it was very crowded in the canals. But yeah, it was very good. Very good.
See, the boats on if you guys listened to our last episode, we touched a little bit on King's Day and even wore some orange in honor of it. But pretty much it's just a big party throughout the Netherlands. So everybody's drinking, dancing, having fun. Canals are filled with boats. Streets are filled with people. There's random little DJs and house parties literally on every block. And then they also have a tradition to do kind of like flea markets. So there's, in the past with the history with it, they had no sales tax on King's Day. So pretty much they've continued that, and people just put a blanket on the sidewalk in designated areas and sell all of their stuff. Some of it was kind of crap. Some of it was actually pretty good. So we started our King's Day exploring the little markets. We didn't buy anything, but it was really fun to look. A lot of kids, especially in Vondel Park, which is a big park here, we're selling all their little toys, and we're doing little musical performances. We saw a lot of
kid DJs. It was pretty cool.
We saw one kid DJ, but
2. And then they had like a couple of kids that were like dancing for money, which is kind of cool. Another kid was playing a harp for money. Another kid was like painting nails for money. It was pretty funny, actually. They're very creative in how they were making money. They also had this other game that's called Rock de Tomat. It's like hit the tomato, and they essentially like create a ramp of PVC pipe, and someone at the top drops a tomato down the pipe, and the person at the bottom has to try to hit it with a hammer as it comes out the bottom of the downward slope. If they do that, they get some money or prize or something like that. But
yeah, I didn't see one person actually hit the tomato. Everyone kept missing, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed walking around, especially Vondel Park. It was kind of just like a big community party that everybody contributed to. It was just, people were smiling, people were happy. Music was bumping. It was really fun. One thing I expected more of was actually a lot more boats in the canals. People kind of hyped that up for me, and I thought it'd be like bumper to bumper, which it was in some areas, but I kind of expected a little bit more from the boats. But it was really fun. I had a really good time. It personally, for me, exceeded my expectations, and I'm excited to do it again next year. So I enjoyed my first King's Day.
It's like a lot of people will pay a lot of money to go to like a club for a party or a concert or something. Like there's perfectly fine DJs on like the corner of a lot of the canal streets in the Jordan. So it's like you could just spend like hours just hanging out on the streets, and beers were pretty cheap on the streets. There's no like price gouging. I think like a beer was like €3 or something like that. So it was pretty affordable too. Like you don't have to spend a lot of money to celebrate the holiday.
No, you just have to show up and wear orange.
That's true.
And be ready to have a good time. Yeah. So King's Day was awesome, but let's move on to our exciting topic for this week's episode. We're going to talk all about biking and cycling in the Netherlands, which, if you know anything about the Netherlands, you probably are aware that it's has a very, very big cycling culture. So we're going to jump in, talk about our personal experience, give you some fun facts, and then maybe even some tips as a tourist. So I think since we started this podcast, we've been really excited to do this episode, but we wanted to get a few episodes under our belt before we jumped right into biking. So to start it off, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history about how the Netherlands actually became a very big biking country. Because I researched it the other day and I actually thought it was really, really interesting. And I have the information I got from a couple different sources, and it was very repetitive in all of them. So I'm pretty confident this is the exact reason why the Netherlands bike. First thing is first, it's very flat here. So it's really easy to cycle. You're not going up crazy hills, especially in the cities. The Netherlands is just known to be very flat. But what brought on the biking culture. So in the 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s, cars were starting to make their appearance in the Netherlands, and they became very, very popular and the primary mode of transportation, which was actually starting to filter bikes out a little bit. And so as cars dominated the main mode of transportation in the Netherlands, I believe it was in 1971, there was a recorded 3,300 accidents, motor vehicle accidents that killed people. Yeah, that's an accurate number. I can cite it from multiple sources. So 3,300 people died from my motor vehicle accidents in 1 year. So this brought on a lot of protesters and like human rights activists to bring back biking culture, to bring biking culture in and get rid of cars in a lot of Amsterdam. So the government listened to that, initially brought on car-free Sundays within Amsterdam. I can't give you the exact area, but that just became so popular and people really enjoyed it. And then they just brought more and more bikes on. And now there's a lot less cars on the road and a whole lot more bikes. So I thought that was really interesting. And then to build on that even a bit more, during World War II, biking was still popular because it was kind of pre that car period. So we're talking about the 1940s now. People used bikes here as a resistance movement against the Germans. So anytime there was German vehicles, bikers would intentionally bike slower or completely stop to block these vehicles. And I thought that was so interesting. Just a little fun history. So we'll start with our personal experience. John, how do you like the biking culture in Amsterdam?
I think it's pretty good. I think the only thing is that they are very, I don't want to say aggressive, but like, I don't know, they always take precedent over a car's lanes, and probably should, but like sometimes if you're in a car and you're like two of them like are going across the road, there's going to be like 50 of them going across the road, and then it'll just hold up traffic. So I think it's good. It's just like the easiest way to get around to, like, the public transportation here is pretty good, but getting around just from a bike, like there's bike lanes on every street pretty much. And if you want to get somewhere quick and don't want to wait for like a transfer at a tram or a bus or a subway or a train, it's just a lot easier to just get there. Like I could go to the Olympic Stadium, which is like a transfer from one tram to the other, and it would probably take like 40 minutes. Where I can take a bike, not transfer, like I would then just bike there and it would probably take like 25 minutes. So it really is just like the easiest way to get around.
I 100% agree with that.
I think the bikes are also a little bit weird. Like I think in like the US, you think of bikes and you think of like a commuter bike, right? Here are like, they feel like they're like old fashioned style bikes. Very simple, just to like two wheels, a frame, and a crank to get you like from place to place. Whereas like in the US, we're so used to like my bikes that I brought over are like, 21 speed bikes or something like that, or 14 speed bikes. But yeah, I think it's good. It's nice. It's sometimes I do miss just like think of doing a Target run and then think of doing a Target run and bringing all that crap back on a bike. It sucks. So like,
which people do though, because
I know it's
this is
insane.
actually one of the questions I have
Yeah.
for you, and then I'll answer it myself. But people literally they use it as their main means of transportation, so they'll carry anything on a bike, like the most outrageous things. So I was going to ask, what's the craziest thing or largest object you've seen someone carry on their bike while they're biking?
I saw one guy have like a cello backpack,
I see that
which
a
was
lot.
kind of cool. It was pretty interesting. That was pretty funny. I also saw a guy carrying a mirror. I've seen that before. And then someone I think was carrying like a small bookcase I've seen before.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen like dining room chairs, and then I saw someone literally have a full size, maybe not a full size, but a very big carpet just like popped on their back. Yeah. And then it's amazing what they do with groceries here. I'm not at this bike level whatsoever, but they will carry so many bags on their bikes, just put it on the handlebars. I can't even put one bag on my handlebar and I'm like tipping over.
Yeah. They also have like pretty much a whole freaking family on the bikes too. Like some of these bikes, they got a kid in the front, little tiny guy. It's pretty funny. I saw one this morning when I was biking, little tiny guy on there, no helmet, probably 2 years old, wearing a puffer jacket, can barely move, just waving. It's really funny when you see the babies in the front, but they're either behind a windshield or whatever, and they got sunglasses on. They're really funny. And then you got a kid in the back. So there's 3 people on a bike. Plus they got the little like basket or the little like saddle bags. So there's that too. So, and then also you have like some of these other ones that are like the cargo bikes in the front. And it's like, you can actually sit, like I saw one today, lady biking. And then in the front, she had a car seat mount in her cargo basket. So she's biking around. This kid in the front's probably like a year old and just sitting around having a good time in the front of it. So it's just really funny when the kids have really long hair and they're in those cargo baskets and their hair is just like completely like blown back. And for them, I'm sure they just think it's just a nice ride, you know? But for the person, if they don't have an electric motor, a lot of those cargo bikes do have like Bosch electric motors for like the crank, but some of the old school ones don't. And it's like very heavy, very, very heavy steel with the kids' weight and like a lot of groceries. So it's pretty impressive to see some of the people that like use the old school ones without motors.
Absolutely. I've always wanted to get one of those bikes with the like big baskets in the front carrying the kids because I personally want to go for a ride. I'd like you to bike while I sit in the front. And I also love seeing those specific bikes are a great means of transportation for injured people who can't bike. You see that all the time. They're like popped in the basket, like grown adults with their crutches, and someone's just pedaling along. And I'm like, that's just genius. Like every lower extremity injured person should have access to that to get around. So much easier. Yeah. I love that one.
Surprisingly, not that many accidents either. Like I've only seen one lady get hit by a car and fly through the air, and that was like really bad.
Though. That was very rare. That was
a person incident that probably did not know how to drive, renting a car because it was like a car sharing service car. Like they have them over here, like, you know, Sixt Car Share, Green Wheels, or whatever it's called. Some like various companies that like have car sharing services. And it was very clear that she was driving a manual and either dropped the clutch or something and just took out this lady. You just see like blonde hair flying through the air and like this bike just like getting crunched. Like,
yeah, but people are very generous here. Like right when that happened, it was in front of a restaurant and you saw pretty much everybody in that restaurant came to make sure she was okay and help her.
Well, there's a screaming woman flying through the air. So
yeah, but in general, you don't really see too many accidents. If anything, it's like someone cuts someone off, or like, I don't even know if I call it a fender bender, but the Dutch are very like passive aggressive. They'll just yell some things in Dutch. Usually it's like pancakes or something, like something not even applicable for maybe like 15 seconds. And then they just go about on their way. I've gotten yelled at by some Dutch people a few times. My favorite was, so ideally, cyclists have the right of way, except for on pedestrian walkways. So on any pedestrian walkway, cyclists do not have the right of way. You have to stop. I didn't know that when I came here, and I was getting really good at cycling. And so I was like just cruising through all the walkways without an issue. Are you okay there?
Allergies.
John has a lot of allergies, and I'm telling a really good story, so I'll just continue to talk to myself. So I was blowing through a walkway on my bike because I was really good at biking. My confidence level was crazy. There's like 3 different levels of biking skills here. Level 1, you bike with both hands. Level 2, you bike with one hand. Level 3, the absolute Dutch level, you bike with no hands. Yeah, I'm dead serious. They literally, on a cold day, have their hands in their pockets, just cycling along. It's like insane. I aspire to get to that level, but right now I'm only at level 2. So one hand, I can do no problem. 0 hands, I've tried so many times and almost fall, so I stopped. But anyway, I was blowing through, just riding down the bike lane, and I got yelled at in Dutch going through a walkway. And I don't know what they said, but then I realized, oh my gosh, they have the right of way. And then I felt really bad. But now I kind of like doing that to tourists because tourists have no idea. They just see bikers coming and they're like, oh, I better stop, because they hear all these horror stories of people getting hit by bikes, which does happen a lot. Dutch people are very rarely going to slow down for you if you're walking not on a pedestrian path, walkway. So I love messing with the tourists. And usually when I'm in a touristy area, I'll go real fast towards the walkway, and I see like tourists like stutter step, and then I just blow through them, and I'm like, gotcha, you stupid tourist. So if you are tourist visiting, know that you do have the right of way, but still watch out, because that doesn't mean a Dutchie's going to stop for you. So
also, it's funny, like
he's back from his sneezing episode. I was doing a solo podcast here, but I guess he rose from the dead. Go on. Wasn't even done, but go on.
Go ahead.
It was fine. Continue, because I got lots of fun facts and questions to throw in, but I didn't even know you were listening to me. Go ahead. He has a sneezing break again. John has pretty bad allergies. My allergies, I never had allergies till I moved to London and now in the Netherlands, and they spike. Spring seasonal allergies are pretty bad here. I don't know why it's different than the US, but it definitely is. He's going to sneeze again. You got it. Bless you.
I think it's also really funny, like when sometimes like someone's too drunk to drive their bike home, ride their bike home, their friend will take it for them. So they're riding it around, and they're so tall here and lanky that they like have the ability to have one arm on the stem of the other bike, and they're literally just biking with one hand on their own and another bike next to them, carrying their friend's bike home. It's pretty incredible.
It's really impressive. Also, biking has no age here. You'll see children. Most children ride on their parents' bike. But you'll see little kids, like you're not even sure if they can walk on those balance bikes at a really young age, just like running along. And then in terms of older individuals, I mean, I obviously don't know how old these people are, but people are cycling till they are very old.
I've definitely seen like 80-year-old people like
80 is not that old.
Cycling.
I'd like to see
I saw,
some,
unfortunately,
like,
during the fall, there's like a lot of leaves coming down and it was raining. Poor lady, she was definitely older, but you could tell she got into a thick pile of leaves on the path and fell down. It looked pretty rough, but very rarely do you see those incidents because they keep the bike paths pretty clean here too.
They keep the whole city really clean. I think Amsterdam, and I guess you could say even more so for some of the other cities, it's really, really clean. You could even see, like, there's a very clear going into Belgium where
Huge
the
difference.
Netherlands ends. You could Google pictures of it and see it, but where the border of the Netherlands ends and Belgium starts, it's like literally night and day. It is so clean. We pay really high taxes, but it does leave us a beautiful city and country. So sometimes you're obviously frustrated with those high taxes, but at the end of the day, when you're walking around the city, you're like, wow, okay, I think this might be worth it. So I think one other fun thing to talk about, because I know when you moved here, so obviously you have 2 bikes. So John brought both of his bikes here. One thing in the Netherlands is there's actually, specifically in Amsterdam, probably in all of the Netherlands, there's more bikes than people. So it's like 1.3 bikes per person in Amsterdam specifically. So the average person here has 2 to 3 bikes. I only have one, but John, I think you've really settled in because he just purchased bike number 3 here.
Yeah, that's correct. Multiple purposes, but yes, two for general purpose, and then the third one I just got for cycling, like a cycling bike, full carbon.
Yeah. So you'll see people have like their everyday bike, usually like a complete trash bike. So a bike that they'll like ride to the bar or something, or like a bike they're kind of willing to lose, but just want to have extra security with it. And then there's a big cycling culture here because people just bike on a daily basis, but it goes way beyond that, to where people have legit cycling bikes, and there's cycling stores for that specific all over the Netherlands. And of course, just small little bike shops that you could pop in if something happens to just your normal bike. But yeah, I think it's insane that there's like 1.3 bikes per person within the Netherlands. I only have one bike. I actually didn't even purchase a bike here. I went the very expat way and went through a rental company called Swap Feets. Most students and expats, I would say, do that. So it's a subscription-based company where they provide the bike for you. You pay a monthly fee, which isn't very much depending on the level of bike you buy. And they will repair it for you at any time. If it's lost, stolen, they have ways to work around that too. So it honestly just seemed easier for me. But you can actually buy a very, very affordable bike here.
Yeah, they hold their value pretty well too. They have marketplace here, which they call marketplots, and you can find like a 2-year-old bike that you probably got for 700 euros selling for 550 euros. So like 2 years of like good use, you only lose 150 euros of value. So yeah, they hold value pretty well.
Yeah, so people cycle through bikes like candy, literally. Yeah, I don't know on average how often people buy bikes here, but you could even find like bikes for like 50 euros. It's obviously going to be a little bit more beat up, but bikes are relatively affordable especially if you're not buying a brand new bike.
And I think the government even has like, I think they have one in the pipe where it's like a government bike store where they're selling bikes that they've put on like a ticket or they found in a canal or something. Because they'll put tickets on bikes and say like, you have to remove this by this day, it'll be like a month away. And if they're not moving it in a month away, they'll take it away. And like typically they do that if they're doing construction or changing the bike stalls or whatever. But if no one ever comes back for looking for that bike after X amount of days, they'll just sell it. And I think there's one over in the pipe, which is a neighborhood here in Amsterdam. And yeah, you can get them for really cheap over there too.
I actually just saw, so when they ticket your bike and you don't move it and then the city collects it, they're actually increasing the fee to get it back. So it used to be like 20 euros and now it's going to be 25 euros. And they're going to decrease the amount of time you have to pick it up. So most people, especially if it's like their crap bike, they don't even want it. They're like, it's not worth those 20 euros and they'll just leave it there. So the city just takes care of it. So if you ever have a bike you don't like, literally just leave it on the street and the city will take care of it for you, which is kind of crazy. But you also mentioned bikes in the canals. Some fun facts about that. So I was actually just on a canal cruise and our tour guide mentioned this. So I got fresh facts for you. But they collect almost 12,000 bikes a year in the canals. So they'll go through, people just throw them in, they fall in, they blow in when it's really windy. For all sorts of reasons, bikes end up in the canals. But the city cleans the canals. I don't know how often it is, but I would say pretty frequently. So
I think they do it in the spring and then before the winter.
So twice a year, spring cleaning, fall cleaning. But they'll go in with these huge metal detectors that literally just like the bikes latch onto them and they just pull them out of the water.
Sometimes they'll do the claw too. They have like a claw style, but most of it's magnets.
Yeah.
But some of the magnets, it's kind of crazy. There's a couple of videos on YouTube where they'll like pull up like something insane out of there. Like they'll like grab, like the magnet will like pull up a gun or something like that, and the police are like notified. But yeah, they have a barge. They like, it's like a kind of like a miniature excavator, but without instead of a bucket on the end, it has a giant magnet on the end. And so it'll go in, go to the water, get the bikes, put the claw, like empty the magnet in the barge. And then at the end of it, they clear it all out.
Yeah. I think they've even collected cars, definitely boats. Boats sink. They just get like waterlogged. Is that the right word? Filled with water, sink to the bottom.
That happens a lot, actually. And they put the government puts, when they see a sinking boat, they'll put like a notice on the boat that says like, you have like 30 days to clean this up, because surprisingly someone will buy it and then just leave the boat there. And then like over the rain and all this other stuff starts sinking. And then like, yeah, every once in a while you'll see like the government like just towing like a nasty boat out of the canal. They've done it over by our house before.
Yeah. Also, last week I saw just a random person literally like with a rope pulling a bike out of the canal. I don't know if it was their bike, but when they pulled it out, it was like really nasty, covered in dirt. So it had to have been there for a while. But I've never seen like actual regular person go and scoop their bike out. It was just kind of funny. It was very random. It's actually on the canal cruise I was on, and the tour guide was like, "Oh my gosh, she stopped the whole tour for it because it was just so different."
Yeah, this water will get like the bike's pretty nasty pretty quick, because it's like there's a lot of sediment in it. It's like brackish. There's all sorts of like stuff in the water. I mean, it's relatively clean, but the bikes that get pulled out of the canal are kind of nasty.
Yeah, they're not reselling those. Those basically just go get recycled and dumped. One cool fact too. So I did a lot of research, and there's just a lot of information about bikes in Amsterdam. So on average, 63% of people cycle in Amsterdam daily. And you could feel it. There's literally bike traffic. So especially during rush hour, if you get caught at a red light, cyclists do have to obey laws. So just like traffic laws. So just like cars have red lights and green lights, cyclists do too. And you should obey those, especially if you're not a good biker or new to Amsterdam or just visiting. If you're a tourist, definitely obey the rules. But yeah, on average, 63% of people in Amsterdam cycle. And I'd like to say I'm definitely one of those people. I rarely take public transportation to work or the gym. Those are two most frequent places I go.
Yeah, I think when I first got my bike here, it was just so easy because like a lot of the places I needed to go were like just too short for a tram and waiting. So like it would be like a stop, but plus waiting, you spend a lot of money, or you just walk it. The second I like got my bike, I like biked to the post office here, and I was like, yeah, this is why I like so much faster and quicker than walking. So
yeah, it's incredible. Even for me to the gym, it's literally like a 4-minute cycle versus a 15 to 20-minute walk, which is like, what? Like, obviously I'm going to hop on my bike and cycle. And that goes in any weather condition. The only time I will absolutely not cycle is if there's a wind warning where the winds are just crazy strong. There's been points where I've tried to cycle in those strong winds. And you especially if you're going into a headwind, you literally go nowhere. The people get blown. There's been times I've been like going over a bridge and I feel myself leaning to one side by the wind, and everyone else on the bridge is leaning to the same side as me. You're like, oh my God, I'm about to fall off my bike. And then, yeah, there's times I get off my bike and literally just walk on my bike because it's that windy and you can't get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, in the wintertime, you kind of almost need like full Gore-Tex gear, because otherwise, like, you're going to waste time. Or, yeah, like, so you kind of like need to go somewhere, but you're like, okay, I don't want to like wait in the like walk in the rain or wait for public transportation. So you have to get like for me, I have like Gore-Tex pants, shoes, jacket, everything, so that I can just sustain like a 15-20 minute bike ride in the rain and just get through it for the most part.
And pretty much everywhere you go is going to have a route that is bike pass only. Supposedly there's actually within Amsterdam alone, there's over 500 kilometers or 320 miles worth of bike lanes, which is a very, very far distance. So everywhere you go, you're pretty much in a bike lane. Sometimes you'll share those small little bike lanes with cars very temporarily. And I have to give myself a lot of credit. I maneuver around cars very, very well. So like when a car kind of pops up and you got to maneuver those tight areas. When I first moved to Amsterdam, I legit stop my bike and get off and walk around. But now I smoothly go by and it's very rewarding. I feel like a really good cyclist.
Yeah, I think also in the cycling lanes, you have these little like troll cars over here, like these little electric ones where like they're so small you don't even have to parallel park them. You just back them into a parallel spot and you can fit like 3 of them side by side because they're so small. They're like really little electric things. They're called Bira Estremas is one of the most popular ones. They're expensive, like $13,000, but they share the road with you sometimes. Those you got to just watch out a little bit. And also scooters, like,
but scooters scooters can no longer go in bike lanes.
Oh, okay.
Like standing on the scooters, they have the little
like, no, like a Vespa.
Yeah, I think they should kick those out of bike lanes. I personally think they go way too fast in a bike lane. Bike lanes should really just be for bikers, and the e-bikes can stay, but those little Vespas I think should go. If anything, they're going to cause most accidents, I would say, in bike lanes. Another thing that might surprise people is helmets. Nobody wears helmets here. The only people you see wearing helmets is maybe like if there's like infants on a parent's bike. But other than that, helmets are not part of the culture.
Old people wear helmets sometimes.
Sometimes, but you very rarely see that even with older people.
It's literally probably like 2-year-olds and under, like are like they're bobbing head like in the front are wearing helmets, but really not many more other than that.
Yeah, since I've been here what, 8 months? I feel like I can maybe count on one hand the amount of people I've seen with helmets on. Yeah, it's just I think that's really surprising to tourists, especially coming from the US where they're like, oh, safety first. Like my dad's a doctor. Like I always had a helmet. The fact that I don't wear a helmet now, I think scares the crap out of him. But it's just part of the culture.
I think also bike lanes are more dangerous in the US because cars are more prevalent to not care about bike lanes in the US. Where here in Amsterdam specifically, they're actually trying to make all of Amsterdam car free.
Yeah.
And you can see that by the way that they direct traffic in by like limiting the amount of routes into the center of the city that are 2-way. Like there's really only a few one-way in, like there's only a few ways in. It's primarily one way. So, and the traffic is insane. So they're really trying to make it so that people are like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that. I'm just going to take the train in.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've done a really good job. They've even started building more and more bike garages. So obviously there's so many bikes. You're probably like, where do all these people park these bikes? Throughout the city, they have lots of underground garages that are pretty much free to park your bike, especially for the first 24 hours. And then sometimes if they stay there a little bit longer, you have to swipe with like your public transportation pass. But
yeah, they did a big reconstruction of Amsterdam Central.
Yeah, I think the underground, so they built it underwater, and I think it holds over 10,000 bikes, is what I read. And if you're ever in Amsterdam, you'll probably go through Amsterdam Central, which is the main train station. If you don't, that'd be kind of surprising. But you definitely have to just go walk down there. It's a huge operation. It's really cool. The first time I went, you're just like mind blown. It's just so many bikes, and it's incredible, I think.
Yeah.
And with so many bikes, I've gotten this question a few times. How do you know what bike is yours when you're going to get your bike?
Well, I have a smart tag in mine, but I also have like an American looking. I have an American looking bike. It's black with reflective gear. It's specialized. It has a Thule basket on it. So I know.
So
Mine.
you just stick out like a sore American. So you're probably the wrong person to ask. So I'll just go ahead and say mine. Well, a couple things.
Yeah, yours is a little bit more difficult because you have like the rental,
Yeah, I have
generic
the
rental
swap feet
company one.
spike. So it looks like pretty much everybody else's and it's pretty much the same color. One, you kind of just like know your bike. It helps currently because I broke the fender on my bike. So it's literally split in half. So that's an easy identifier. And then for me, I just leave a phone holder on it. The phone holder doesn't even work. It flips over each time I use it. But that's my quick identifier. If you ask a Dutchie how they identify their bike, you just like know the feel of your bike. You just have that like gut feeling. That's my bike. That's what they'll say. Especially if it's a little bit more, if it blends in more with all the other bikes.
Yeah, it's a very personal thing. Like we had a guy talking to us about it a couple weeks ago where it's just, it is a really personal thing. Like you like how your seat height is, you like how your handlebars are like leveled, you like how like it really handles and stuff like that. So it is a very personal thing where you like just know right away if just something is off. Like when you go in, like in America, you get your car done and you get it back from like doing repair and you're kind of like, all right, something's a little off now. I need to like adjust this, just that, like something feels a little weird. And you're like skeptical for the first like 4 hours you have it, right? Similar thing with a bike. If you know you wouldn't be able to get on it anyways because the lock wouldn't work. But two, if you did actually get on one that was very similar, you would know within like 5 minutes that it wasn't yours.
Absolutely. So all the bikes have locks. If you're in Amsterdam, you have to lock your bike. Otherwise, it'll probably get stolen. I don't know how many bikes are stolen a year in Amsterdam alone, but that number is really high. But I've heard
now with like the expensive ones, if you see like a Velaretti or like these e-bikes that are really out there or like a nice mountain bike, they don't even care. Like people will just like show up with a ski mask and like a saw and just saw the lock off and just take it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that happen. My favorite Dutch story though is when people say their bike gets stolen and then like months later they'll see their bike on a sidewalk and then they'll go steal it back. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, our canal guy said that one time. He was like, yeah, 6 months later I saw it outside of a bar and I just took it right back.
Yeah, so I think that speaks to the Dutch culture is they just don't care. They're just gonna do what they want, but they're very like kind of passive if someone takes their stuff. It's like, oh, that's annoying, but whatever, I'm gonna have to move on. You can report it, but reporting it won't do anything. They're not gonna act upon that.
Yeah, one of the thing there are like I've seen in the morning, early in the morning when I go to the gym, like actually police stay by the bike lanes when it's still dark to see if people have a headlight and a tail light. It's actually a pretty big fine. I think if you don't have either or both, I think it's like 95 euros to fine you get.
Yeah. So when it's dark outside, you have to have that headlight and that rear light for safety, obviously, which makes a lot of sense. Luckily for me, my bike it's automatic. So when I pedal, my lights turn on, which makes it so easy for me. For John, he has people steal things off your bike. So you can't leave anything on your bike because people are going to take it right off. So John has to take his lights on and off because he's gotten them stolen before. So,
which is so frustrating. Too. No. Well, I did get something stolen off off one of my bikes in our apartment, but so I parked in a bike garage near Central Station and I left my light on there and they didn't even take the like thing that like could fit it because you have to like put the light on in a fixture. Then that fixture attaches to the handlebar. They didn't even take the light in the fixture. They just took the light. So I don't even know what they're going to attach it to get it onto the handlebar, which is super frustrating.
They might have just needed the light. I think you're really smart. So sometimes if it gets dark and he doesn't have his light on him and we're out for that headlight, you'll just like put your phone on your phone mount and use your flashlight on your phone, which is genius. I don't know. Did you get that idea from someone else or did you come up with that on your own?
No, I think I came up with it on my own because it's like you just need something. You need something to resemble a light. Otherwise, you're going to get fined almost 100 euros.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you got something, so when somebody stole something off your bike in our bike garage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. So and pretty much all, especially the newer buildings, A lot of them have their own bike garages. So we have our own personal bike garage that we share with all of our building. And there's so many bikes in there. There's like way more bikes than units. It always blows my mind. Someone took my bike spot the other day and I had to relocate my bike spot and it kind of pissed me off. So I wish people would respect my bike spot more. That's actually happened twice. I've had to relocate my bike twice after I've gotten comfortable in my bike spot. So frustrating.
Yeah, I think also is like another thing is like a lot of the e-bikes, they have outlets, but like I think people have taken the cords to charge it because there's like signs up that are like, please be a good neighbor, don't take our cord, or like whatever it may be.
On any of the e-bikes, they all have the chargeable batteries. So those get stolen really frequently. So anytime you leave your bike anywhere, if you're on an e-bike, you got to take your charger with you. Even if you're out shopping,
for sure,
going to the grocery store.
And it's actually kind of funny. Like you'll see people park with their e-bike and then a lot of them have like a removable battery. So they'll like
just talk about,
I know, but you'll see people just like walking with like a removable battery, like into the grocery store. It's really funny.
Yeah, I think it's pretty funny too. Do you have any other fun bike facts or anything you want to add to bike talk?
I think outside of like commuting bicycling here, they have really good, like I just got into cycling and they have really good trails that go pretty much into like Germany. They follow the rivers and stuff like that. So you can really bike throughout Europe from Amsterdam. So today I went for a cycle and like perfectly paved road pretty much, but no people walking and no cars. And you can just take it. I mean, I don't know how far you could take it, but the river that it's along, the Viking River cruises go all the way to Budapest on it. So I'm assuming you could bike all the way to Budapest somehow, but it's a really nice path, like literally just like a paved highway, but for bikes. And so there's a ton of people cycling on it today. The only thing that's really bad is that it's kind of near water and it's kind of near like rural areas. So like you're kind of flying through you're slicing through the air, but you're also today a bee flew into my helmet and like bugs were just going into my eyes. So
I think that's a springtime thing,
yeah, that's true. But yeah, they're very into cycling here. So they have like a lot of cycling clubs, a lot of good cycling stores. I just got a new bike from a cycling store near the Olympic Stadium and got full new kits and all that stuff through like a couple of cycling club stores here in Amsterdam. So, and all of them were super helpful. That I was like, hey, I literally know nothing about this. I'm trying to get into this. Can you help me out? And like all the stores that I went to, my bike, the two like outfitters, they helped me out tremendously. Just like, okay, this is what you typically wear. This is what you do. This is how you're supposed to put it on, like all that stuff. And I'm glad I did that and have gotten the help and got like professionally bike fitted, because otherwise I would have I've gotten the right stuff and it would have been a good experience.
Really good job fitting into the bike culture and getting into cycling. So if you guys I know we talked a lot about biking, but it's pretty fun here and it's a great topic to talk about here. So if you guys have any more questions and we didn't answer anything that you want to know about biking or cycling here, please drop into our Instagram messages or our YouTube comments and we'll get onto those. We'll answer those on our next episode because it's a really fun topic and very different than anywhere in the world. And I'm sure you guys have a lot more questions than what we talked about. We're going to actually skip our snack of the week this week. We didn't have one in time for this podcast. So we said, hey, let's talk more about bikes, skip the snack. And we will give you our Dutch phrase or word of the week. I'm going to kick this one off because it relates directly to this podcast. So I'm going to tell you guys what bike is in Dutch. I kind of already said it in regards to the company I rented my bike from. So swap fiets. Fiets is bike. Yeah. So jumping right back. So you guys know, you're like, where can I find a feast? Where can I buy a feast? Where can I ride my feast? You'll see it all everywhere.
Fiats.
Oh, sorry. Fiats. Well, thank you. Yeah. So you guys will see that word if you're ever in Amsterdam. It will be a word that you see very frequently in fiats. My bad. Not feats. Okay, what's your word?
No float.
Oh, I love that one.
No float. See a lot of it. They put a lot of it in the food and stuff like that. It's garlic.
Yeah.
No float.
I'm gonna come back with some vegetables next time because there's some really funny ones.
Knoflook.
Yeah. So you guys learned bike and garlic this week. We're gonna wrap up this podcast right here. For today.
Also, a little bit of history today because we're recording it on today's the National Remembrance Day. So a lot of stores closed early, but it was the remembrance. Essentially, it's today and tomorrow, but it was the weekend when the Netherlands was liberated from World War II. So that's happening now. The King and the Queen are downtown right now. They have a big national ceremony. We were actually shopping in one of the stores closed down early because of the Remembrance Day. So that's another history piece of this podcast.
So happy Independence Day. We're glad
Liberation Day.
We're happy the Netherlands was liberated. Thank you guys again for listening. If you guys want to reach us, again, like I said earlier, contact us on Instagram through our DMs or pop into our YouTube comments. We love to hear any feedback, questions, concerns, any of it. Share it with us. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you back in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.